Hello and welcome to the Million Dollar Body Podcast with your host, Greg Fearon. And today I'm joined by the awesome Helen Norbury, who's going to talk through her journey. We've been working together for a while now, so we're going to have some fun. Helen, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be chatting to you today.
Um, so we had this conversation just before we came on, which was like, who are you? What do you do?
And I think that's a really interesting question for probably, well, in my whole working life, I've identified myself by my job title. And I think a huge part, no, I don't think, I know that a huge part of the work that we've done together, I think it's 18 months, 2 years or so, a huge part of the work that we've done together has been around identity. And I can hand on heart say for the first time that my identity is no longer wrapped up in my job title, my job that I'm doing today. I'm not mum, I'm not a business consultant, I'm not a coach, I'm all of those things, but I'm at the same time none of those things. And for the first time, my identity is much more about how I show up in the world, who I want to be, the stamp that I want to leave on this world. I've long believed that we should come to this world and leave it a better place than we found it in some shape or form, whatever that looks like. And for me now, through the work that we've done together, understanding what that looks like is me showing up as the best version of myself. And I know that's quite a cliche term, but what that means for me is ultimately, can I say yes to anything that anybody asks me to do? So if someone taps me on the shoulder this afternoon and says, hey, do you want to go and climb Machu Picchu? I can go, yes, let's do it. And that looks in lots of different ways through my health, through my fitness, through the way I nourish my mind, my body, my soul, through the relationship that I have with my children, my friends, my family, through the relationship that I have with my work and everything that looks like. That is no longer everything about who I am. Yes, it's an important part, but it's not everything. And so that's a really long, drawn out way of answering your question. But I think it's a really important clarity that I've gained over the last couple of years and sort of refined even, continually to who I am. It's not my job, it's me and how I show up in the world.
I think we can just end the podcast there. That was the drop. That's it. It's all over. Thank you very much for coming. That's it. Everyone can listen to that part. No, but on a serious level, let's take it back to because we had a chat before we started. I remember we had a conversation, right, about doing some work together, and then
I think maybe 6 months before it actually happened.
uh,
And I don't know if I've even told you this before, but hey, why not? Let's do it now. Um, at that time, I had that conversation with you, and I'm like, I know Greg can help me so much, but I don't know if I trust myself to become the person that I need to be in working with Greg. Not in any way that I thought you would be judgmental of me or anything like that, but I knew I was going to have to go on a journey in working with you. And am I ready for that journey? Like to commit myself to that journey and to make the changes that I know I need to make in my life, but I'm almost comfortable staying in this place down here. Am I ready to elevate my game? And because I know Greg is going to support me to elevate my game. And so that took me maybe 6 months or so of like sort of a little bit of sort of self introspection to then go, actually, this is what I need. This is the next version of me that needs to birth essentially. And that I knew I needed you by my side to kind of make all of that happen and to open the doors that I didn't feel capable of opening on my own at that point in time.
it's really funny. I remember that conversation. I was just like, I know she would kill it. Yeah. Like I'd see some of your comments on my posts and stuff, and I was like, I know she'd kill it. But like
Yeah.
you said, you had to be ready to go.
Yeah. I think one of my favorite sayings is, when the student's ready, the teacher appears. And it was a definite case of that you appeared and you kind of, without saying anything, you challenged me to kind of be open to raising my game. And then obviously the rest starts to become history as we started working together.
So we had that little 6 months. You watched my content. What was the switch that made you go, right, I'm ready to go and do this?
So it was very much, it started from a health and fitness angle, which I guess is not unusual for how your clients show up in your world. But I had signed up for some reason or other, I can't even particularly remember why, but I'd signed up to walk a marathon as a sort of a challenge to myself. And so I walked that marathon, and then I was like, what do I do now? I kind of thought I would use it as a test bed to see if I wanted to train to run a marathon. And I very quickly established that I didn't. Um, so I was thinking, what am I going to do now? Like, how do I keep some of this momentum? I've started doing a little bit of training, albeit mostly just walking at that stage, but how do I do something more with what I've started? And I was sort of freewheeling around, and I know who I need to pick the phone up to. This is the moment where I need the direction and the steering to kind of take what I've started and make it into something more and more structured, established, more a part of who I am and how I show up in the world.
And I still remember when you said, I'm eating about 800 calories.
Yeah, that was the other thing actually. I was eating 800 calories a day to lose weight. And then I'd plateaued, and my head was going, surely I can't drop down to 600 calories. That feels ridiculous. And so I'm like, I need help to lose weight, but someone to give me permission to still eat at that time. I thought still eat 800 calories, but how do I lose weight and eat 800 calories? And then I remember we kind of started working together, and you went, right, I know this is going to terrify you, but trust me, you need to eat 1600 calories. And I went, I told you I'm not losing weight on 800. How can I eat double and lose weight? This makes zero sense, Greg. Have you completely taken leave of your senses? Um, and so, yeah, that was all the starting position, if you like, from a couple of years ago now.
And the thing is, because I know you've done things like CrossFit, you know your way around the gym and stuff, essentially. So when you said you're at 800 calories, I was like, okay, I have to drop this one gently, like
Mm.
1600. But one of the things I remember you said was you didn't know what you'd have to give up, or you were scared about what you might have to give up.
Mm.
Tell me more about that. Like,
Yeah, so I did know my way around a gym. I had done CrossFit, but everything in my life, whether that was diet, whether it was exercise, had been very up and down. So I did CrossFit for 2 years. Then I got a new job. I couldn't kind of work with the times of the classes anymore. Oh, I just won't do CrossFit now. It fell by the wayside. Exercise went out the window. Same with diets. I would do a diet for a period of time. My motivation would run out, and I would, I'm going to just eat all the chocolate, all the ice cream, all the everything. I've blown it now. I may as well just eat 5 billion calories. What the hell? And so every time I did something, it felt like I had to give something up, but my motivation outweighed the sacrifice almost
mhm.
for a period of time until it no longer did. And then it was like, why does everybody else get to eat birthday cake and I can't eat birthday cake? The world is so unfair. It's kind of penalizing me. Everybody else gets to do all the fun things, and I'm the victim in life, basically. And at no point was there a version of that that allowed me to live and be and experience the things that I wanted to and that I thought everyone else was experiencing
Mhm.
without kind of like this victim mentality that I was somehow being held to account for something that I had or hadn't done at some point in the past.
Mhm.
And so it felt, how long am I going to have to do this to get to where I want to get to so that then I no longer have to do it and then I can just live a normal life and be a normal person. And that was it was always, it felt like a race against time because I've got motivation, like it's starting high, it's gradually coming down, and I've got to beat the clock before I get to the bottom, like before the sand runs out in the motivation sand thing, and get to the goal so that then by the time motivation runs out, you're there and job done. But guess what? That never happened.
It's scary how much we like when we try and do things in the short term.
Mm,
I think, and I've called it quick fix trauma.
yeah,
It's almost like you have to squeeze every little bit in this little bit of time, or else
absolutely.
it will never happen.
And you kind of think, well, Amazon will deliver something in 4 hours. You know, we're kind of creating this world and this culture where everything does happen really quickly. You know, from, you know, the online coaching world, the number of people telling you that you can get 10K in 2 weeks, get this in that time, you know, and all of these big promises of huge things that you can deliver in very short periods of time, which maybe one person's done it, maybe, you know, it's happened here and there. But for the most of us, I feel, you know, I always had to remind myself, you didn't put on your weight in 1 week. Why would you expect to lose it in 1 week? To get from the starting point up and back down to the same point? Why would you expect for that to happen it took 4 years for you to gain this weight, but you're going to lose it in 1 week? Like, that's an irrational thought, really.
Yeah, but we still want it. The psychology of the brain is just crazy like that, isn't it? Or
Yeah,
have
because
to.
someone goes, hey, I can make it easy for you. Let's face it, we're all wired to find the easiest way to do something. So if someone's promising you 1 week of effort equals 5 stone lost, you're like, oh, give me some of that.
What's
You know,
that?
same in business. 2 weeks of effort, 10K in the bank. Oh, nice. Thank you. I'll have a bit of
Hmm.
that without having ever been in business or run your own business or the marketed, you know, without having any experience of any of the ingredients that go into that. And you're like, yeah, but it's quick. So, you know, that feels easy. And my brain likes easy. And when you kind of can settle in the understanding and the belief that it doesn't have to be easy, or it doesn't have to be difficult, but it doesn't have to be quick either. You know, you can separate quick and easy as not being the same thing.
Slow is smooth is always the thing that
Yeah,
comes to mind. Slow is smooth.
yeah. And more sustainable ultimately, because you can do almost anything for a very short period of time. But what can you do for the rest of your life?
Exactly that. So after the heart attack of you have to eat double the amount of food. I think one of the things I remember picking up was on sleep, and you talked about not having energy to get out of bed, and you were just like, sleep's
Mm.
the shop. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I remember feeling like I didn't sleep very much, but not really having any data to kind of back that up. And then I went, oh, guess what? My watch will tell me how much I sleep. So I looked back on some data and I remember messaging you with some screenshots of my sleep going, you're never going to believe this. My average sleep was just about 4 hours a night. And that was over a sort of an extended period of time. It maybe went up to 4:15, down to 3:45, but it was basically for a 6 month period. That was all I slept. And I was like, oh, I thought it was bad, but now I know it was bad.
Hmm.
And you're saying to me, you do realize you can't perform at your best on 4 hours sleep. And I'm going, oh, but Richard Branson says he's in the 5 hour club. You know, I can be up there with him. And okay, right, let's try some sleep and see how you feel. And so we started to unpick why it was that I didn't sleep. And again, going back to having my identity all wrapped up in my role, my job, like that being who I am, I'd always sort of given the excuse since getting divorced that, well, what's the point in watching TV? I'm not really that interested in most of the stuff on TV. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later, but not really interested in most of the stuff that's on TV.
Hmm.
But I am interested in my job. I really enjoy my job. It doesn't feel like work if I enjoy it. So, therefore, I can put the kids to bed and then go back to work because it's fun, hey? And I'll just keep working and I'll work 18-hour days. And I had done that most of my time since having children, and my son's just turned 16. So 16 years of at least that. And prior to having children, even I was doing a lot of management consultancy. I was away from home. Same excuse in my head. Well, I'm not at home. I'm just sat in a hotel. I may as well just work. So we're probably talking 25 years, for the majority of which I'd worked 16, 18-hour days. So how do I start to unpick this? And you're saying to me, you just need to stop at a certain point. Well, I've got all this stuff on my phone. It just like pings notifications. Okay, let's separate it. Oh, Greg, don't make me do this. And this real, like, I remember you saying to me, I can see you shuffling in your seat because you feel so uncomfortable about this.
Hmm.
It's like you're taking away, it was like you're taking away my oxygen
My
mask. Like
precious.
the thing that kind of feeds me, nourishes me, gives me purpose in this world at that time. You're taking it away from me. And but at the same time, I recognize that it makes obvious sense. You can't work until 11 o'clock at night, fall into bed, and expect yourself to go to sleep because at no point during the day did you go and relax. So you can't go to sleep when you're like wired like this,
Hmm.
or you can't expect yourself to stay asleep if you're wired like this. So is it any wonder that my poor body was going, 4 hours, that's enough. The cortisol like racing around my body. And then wake up and go, I'm ready to go again. And but I'm not. Oh my God, I'm tired. But I'm ready to go again. And literally, this was a pattern for, like I say, 20, 25 years. So unlearning that, don't get me wrong, it was really hard. There were times when I'm like, maybe I could not tell Greg if I just went and did a bit of extra work. Like, no, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
So bit by bit, I started. First thing was like, okay, I'm going to stop work at 8. And then I'll have from 8 till 10 or 11 to kind of wind down. And
Mhm.
then I could just go to sleep. Well, guess what? Look, I'm up to like 5.5 hours now. Wow, that's an amazing improvement on my 4 hours from previously. Okay, how about if I stop work at 6? Oh no, that's not going to work. There's like way too much to do. I can't possibly squeeze everything in. Okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to start to see the sleep go up. And it's a real direct correlation. As I start to create more space in my day to calm down and to do other things as well. So it's like, what do I do in this time from like 6 till 10 or 11 when I go to bed? What am I supposed to do with that time? Oh, I could read some books. I love reading, but I never have time to read. I can watch some things on TV which are interesting and I do find enjoyment with. I joined a book club. I went and did some painting classes. I would go for the walk, go for a walk, an extra walk with the dog. All of these other things. Hang out with the kids. The kids started coming to the gym with me. These are all things that I never had time because I was so busy working. And actually, I still got the same amount of work done. It just took 4 hours less. Interesting. So,
I'm gonna
yeah,
I'm, I'm gonna do productivity coaching next. I think that's the
yeah,
next.
absolutely. Absolutely. So, but literally, there was such a direct correlation that as I started to give or create space in my life, my sleep started to go up. And now, if I don't get 7.5 hours, I'm like, oh, God, that was a really bad night's sleep. And like 7.5, 8 hours, that's my normal now. And I have to remember that is double what I used to have, still getting the same done work wise. And I'm doing a whole load more in terms of my exercise routine, the sort of hanging out with people that I want to hang out with, like doing fun things, books, films, blah, 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 everything. There's so much more space in my life for me to be a rounded, balanced person living in the sort of the theme of my identity rather than Helen, I work 20 hours a day.
Oh, yeah, it's such a thing. It's like the resistance for a lot of my clients to sleep and shutting down. And oftentimes it's, oh, Greg, my hormones. And so, and listen, ladies listening, I get it. Your hormones can impact how you sleep. But as Helen
Mm,
said, if you don't have a wind down mechanism,
mm,
you can't expect your body to be in a state ready to sleep. It's just not going to work.
yeah. The
Crazy.
thing you think would, and I'm not putting myself in the category of an Olympic athlete, but would an Olympic athlete show up at the start of the 100 meters race not having prepared? Just going, oh, I just seem to be passing today, and I thought I'd just line up for the race. Same token, how can I expect to show up for my life? How can I expect to sleep effectively, to nourish effectively, to hydrate effectively without preparing the ground for each of those things to happen? Without, and I'm sure this talking about motivation previously, definitely something we've spoken about in the past is that difference between motivation and discipline. For
Hmm.
me, the things happen in my life now because I plan for them. And that's not to say that I can't be a bit more, you know,
Spontaneous.
spontaneous,
Yeah.
but for the majority, like 80% of the time, I've planned what I'm going to eat. I'm planned when I'm going to exercise. I've planned how much I'm going to drink and when I'm going to make, like milestones through the day to make sure that I'm on track to drink what I need to drink. I plan when I'm going to finish work, what I'm going to do in my downtime. I plan when I'm going to go to bed. I am boring beyond belief in that I go to bed and I wake up at the same time every single day. But locking that in as a discipline for me means my body's not going, do I wake up now? Do I go to sleep now? Like, body, you're going to go to sleep at this time, you're going to wake up at this time. And then that I don't even need to think about, will I get enough sleep? Because box ticked, I will. But it is discipline. It's not motivation to do that. It's creating systems and structures in my life. If you looked at my diary, you would see every day, 8 a.m., I get a notification. Now is your time to exercise. That's not to say I don't sometimes change it around, but there's time blocked in my diary every single day to exercise because it's important to me. Anything that is important goes in my diary, because if I just go, well, I'll do it when I've got time, it's not going to happen because, like many other people, I'm very busy, and making sure that you fit the important things into your life means that you plan for it. You don't just leave it to chance, because if it's important, it doesn't get left to chance.
I love all of that. And I still remember, I think you sent me a message where you did a screenshot of your sleep and you're like, "Oh, I'm really upset. I only got 6 hours, 45 minutes of sleep." I was like, just remember how you used to be, right?
This journey, yeah,
Remember that?
absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
so you mentioned something about being about athletes a second ago. And this is going to be perfect. So do you remember when I said to you, are you an athlete? Do you remember the conversation?
Yeah. And I went, no, I'm not. Definitely not. Because my justification for the answer to that question was, I'm not an athlete because Olympians are athletes and I can't put myself in the same box as an Olympian. Therefore, I don't get to own that title. And this really came up with first Hyrox competition that I did pretty much a year ago now. And there were two doors. One said spectators, one said athletes. And I rang you up and I go, Greg, which door do I go through? Because I'm not a spectator, but I'm not an athlete either. And so I'm standing in Amsterdam looking at these two doors going, where's the other door that says just those people taking part who aren't really, neither? And you're like, well, you're an athlete, walk through that athlete door. And I'm like, yeah, but, and that was a real defining moment, I think, for me to put myself in that category that goes, you are an athlete. You're doing all the things that an athlete does. You are living your life as an athlete. Doesn't matter that you're not there breaking the world record. That's not what defines an athlete. You are ticking all the boxes, being all the things, looking through the eyes of an athlete. Just because you're 48, as I was at the time, that doesn't change anything. That in terms of identifying as an athlete. And it was a real moment for me that to go, actually, I'm not here playing around. I'm invested into my health, my fitness, this journey of being a Hyrox athlete. And I own that title as Hyrox athlete as much as any of the elite people do as well.
So there's two bits here. There's the first time we had the conversation about athlete. I think you went as red as my t-shirt. So if you're watching this on YouTube, Helen's face went the same color as my t-shirt. And you were very like, oh, I'm not an athlete. Push it away, push it away. I was like,
I think it's always been really important to me. It is a core value of mine to be in integrity with what I say, what I do, how I live. All of those things match. And I think that flushing in my face was due to, how can I say that and not be that, and not believing that I was being an athlete? Now I feel like I'm saying words that don't belong to me, like me saying I am male or I am 20 years old, or any of those things. I know it doesn't feel like a truth. And it didn't feel like a truth at that point. And so that felt awkward. I'm going to use that as the best word for it, because it just didn't, like wearing your dad's shoes on the wrong feet or something. It just feels really uncomfortable. But over time I thought, oh, actually, I can wear this.
well, that nicely moves us to identity work and just how you've got this identity now where everyone just calls you Hyrox. So firstly, do you want to just explain what Hyrox is for people?
Yeah, so when we were looking at sort of some goals, like winding back right to the beginning, what are you going to do fitness wise that's going to keep you sort of inspired to stay on your fitness journey? Because I knew I needed goals, because that would be what kept me sort of inspired. By coincidence, the algorithm, being what it is, started to show me all these posts about Hyrox. And I'm like, oh, this looks quite interesting. Having come from a background where I'd loved CrossFit, but kind of, as we've spoken about, kind of fallen out of that for various reasons. So Hyrox is 8 1-kilometer runs. And between each 1 kilometer run, you do a functional station. So that's skiing, it's pushing a sled, pulling a sled, doing lots of burpee broad jumps, rowing on the rowing machine, carrying some weights on a farmer's carry, lunges, and then you finish off with 100 wall balls. So it's intense. It's an endurance sport. It's functional fitness. I like it because I didn't think I have the brain capacity to do a marathon and just run for 3, 4, 5 hours, just keep doing the same thing for a long period of time. Whereas this is constantly changing. It might be some 5 minutes on each station, more or less. My PB now is 1 hour 35 for the whole of that. And that's, that's a really good time for an athlete. Obviously the elites are doing it just under an hour. There's other people who take maybe 3 or 4 hours, but everyone works at their own level. You're not competing. It's not a race in that you're racing against people. You start in a wave of 50 of you roughly start at the same time, but they are different age groups. They're all women who go at the same time, but the different age groups all mixed in together. You might be racing against an elite person right next to you. You might be racing on the other side against someone who's going to take 3 or 4 hours to get through it. So it's literally we all go together, but it's you v you basically. And so, yeah, I got into this. Started my first competition was October last year. I've now done 5 solo events and 1 double event in competition, but obviously all the training that sits around that as well.
I remember when you first showed me or told me about Hyrox, and I was like, "Are you crazy? Are you on drugs?
Yeah, a little bit.
Are you on drugs?" I think that's when you really started to come into your own and really start thinking about, well, actually, I'm not just going to do Hyrox. I know I can travel with it, and I know I want to be able to do,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
start to really grow into the identity work and make the change.
yeah. So I got divorced 9 years ago, and I travelled with my children on summer holidays in that time. But I had never ever been on a solo holiday, and bizarrely, like the logical part of my brain says, well, if you can travel alone with 2 young children, why can't you just travel alone? That doesn't make any sense. But yet there was some kind of mental barrier around that made it feel big, like really scary to do.
Mm.
But yeah, October last year, off I go to Amsterdam. That's my first solo trip. And apart from the Hyrox event, I had such a great time. I think I was there for like 3 or 4 days, went on a couple of little trips around Amsterdam, just had an amazing time, bumped into amazing people, like just in cafes and, things like that. And I mean, to be fair, and with the benefit of hindsight, an amazing place to do your first solo trip. It's such a friendly city, but a great, great
Mm.
experience. So then I was like, right, okay, right, Greg, we need more. And so my next trip was UK based, but after that, I then went to Toulouse. I went to Malaga. I also booked on to a Hyrox training camp in Cyprus. I did get to know some of the people before I actually got there, but at the time of booking it, I didn't know any of them. Um, and I have lots more planned for this year as well, starting with Ghent in Belgium just before Christmas. So some UK based, some overseas. Poland we're going to, there's lots and lots of different places. So I love the fact that 2 of my passion, or what was always a passion in terms of travel,
Mm.
can now be combined with a passion or obsession, some might say, around my fitness and Hyrox and being in that community. I know we spoke that I sometimes get this real down after a competition because the energy, the vibe, the everything that kind of courses through your body as a result of doing that sense of satisfaction of completing, maybe getting a PB overall or on some individual stations, all of that. And then I come home and I'm like,
Oh,
quiet around here. And I'm very conscious to not kind of live in an adrenaline fueled world, but it took me a little bit of learning how to, like, what do I need to put in place the week following an event
yep.
so that I don't have this crash.
Mhm.
Um, and I can just keep riding the wave of everything that I experience and enjoy as part of it, be that the travel, be that the event itself, be it the communities that the people that you meet in doing it as well.
I think one of my favorite bits about your Hyrox journey, and I probably never told you this actually, is when you messaged me and you said, Greg, I want to work with someone who specializes in Hyrox training. And I was like, that's it. She's embraced the identity. I was like, yes. Not from the point of, I was happy writing the training program and stuff, but it was more the fact that you were like, this is me. I'm an athlete. And I also remember when you finally got like massages booked in regularly
Yeah.
because you deserve that, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such interestingly, that group that I sort of moved across to with the Hyrox specific training, I put a post in the WhatsApp group that we have today about how. So I did a competition a week ago. I ran a 10k this morning that ended up only being 10 seconds off my PB for a 10k. And I put a post in that group saying, I'm not telling you that so you can all go, yeah, you ran so fast. But I'm telling you that because last season, my body really struggled to recover from events. It took me a little while. Whereas I feel like I've bounced straight out of this competition. And that is probably an accumulation of sleep that we've spoken about, having a decent sleep and recovery routine and regime. It's about my nutrition, it's about my hydration, it's about the mental game that goes with Hyrox because it is as much a mental as a physical game. And if you're in that place at the moment where it feels painful or your muscles are hurting, like just keep going because the more you establish each of these pillars, the more you will enjoy it and love it and your body will love it. And that is all part of the identity. So yeah, it's such a multifaceted sort of approach to who you are and the identity of who you are.
I think that's one of the things, like, I think our coaching calls and stuff have just, we've probably done, and for those listening, I'm making, watching or listening, so I say I'm making the smallest hand sign. We did a little bit on like nutrition and training, but the biggest part was on what was going on in your life, your head, all that, what was going on there.
Yeah. And I think I've realized that that's such an important part of setting myself up for success is we can't always manage when things happen with the kids or work or we can't always manage that, but how can I try and set things up so that in that week running up to an event at least I'm controlling as many of the external stress factors, because then my body can and my mind, everything can focus on that sort of visualization of my race, and it can focus on being as fully recovered as I can be. So I go in at the top of my game, and that way I feel I'm giving everything that I've trained towards over the last 6, 12, 18 months. I'm giving myself the best chance to show up in that way,
Yeah.
because when you're not a professional athlete, you have to cook your own dinner, you have to look after your own kids, you have to do your other work. All of those things are part of your life and your day-to-day things that have to be done. So how do you do them in a way that allows you to show up in the best way possible? And if I just talk about the cooking your own meals as an example, I was getting to the point like, I can't think what to cook. And I am so bored of eating chicken and vegetables and this and that. So bored of eating the same thing every day, but I can't not eat the same thing every day because I can't give it, there's no brain capacity for it. So I signed up to a meal plan box, and I now get 6 meals delivered every week. I still don't have to think about what to cook. I just do what I'm told when it
Yeah.
arrives. But there's 3 different meals in there, 2 portions of each one. And I'm like, game changer, absolute game changer. I get to eat really delicious meals without having to invest brain width in thinking about what I'm going to cook. How much do I need to put on my shopping list of this? Have I got that? It's just all taken care of for me. And it doesn't cost me any more money than just my regular food shopping, really. So it's tick, tick, tick. Like I'm putting all these systems in place that allow me to show up in the way that I want to show up for the things that are important to me. Cooking from scratch thinking about exciting meals not high priority on my identity. Someone else it might be, and they would do something differently. But for me, it's a necessity to be well nourished, and it's something that is important to me to be well nourished, but I don't need to think about how and what and shopping lists and that kind of stuff. It's not where my brain wants to spend time.
So yeah, it sounds like, and this is like a regular conversation I have with everybody I work with. Your superior identity has allowed you to filter out what's important, what's not important, and
Yeah.
what can be outsourced and what you keep.
Yeah. And it was shedding judgment on myself around things like that as well, because like, who do you think you are to, get food delivered to you and stuff like that? And actually going, I'll tell you who I am to get food delivered to me.
I'm listening. I'm listening. I want to hear this. Go on. I'm listening.
I am an athlete who needs to be well nourished. I am not a chef who needs to do fancy cookie stuff. And so when I could shed that judgment of myself and, my mum's voice in my ear, God rest her soul, but when I could shed those, I could actually allow myself to put into place the things that work for me and what's important and my life, my identity, my, focusing on those things that are important without judgment. Someone else will do it differently. I would never say to someone, do what I do, because it's very specific and unique to me. But it works for me. And whatever your system, and I think that's the important thing, is you have a system that allows you to be you, whatever that looks like.
So far, everything has been like rosy. You've had some tough times. There's been some times where you've been like, things have been a bit flat. There's been stuff going on, and we've talked about a lot of that shedding of judgment. That's been a big one for you, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Of course, everything doesn't always go to plan. I mean, I did allude earlier that my body struggled a bit with the training and the recovery from races last season. There were times when I was like the voice in my head going, you're too old for this. Like you can't do this. You're not cut out for it. Blah, blah, all those sorts of things so just do what a normal 50-year-old does, not what I'm not quite 50, but but there were those times where I kind of wasn't sure if I was being ridiculous, basically. And like you say, that judgment on myself. Who do you think you are to think that you can do this? Just get back in your box and do what normal people do. So yeah, there was definitely that. There were times when work was particularly challenging and it took a bigger emotional drain on me than I wanted it to. And again, it came down to a bit of identity adjustment, like what's important, what's not. I kind of have this visual in my head that I've got maybe half a dozen buckets and I've got a finite capacity of liquid to put in those buckets. So if one bucket takes more liquid or more of my energy than the others, then something is going to run out at some point. So if I overfill the work bucket, it's going to have a knock-on effect on my nutrition, my exercise routine, the time and energy that I'm putting into my relationship with my children and other people that I want to kind of have relationships with. It's going to impact how I see my finances, not even necessarily the actual finances, but my perception around my finances. All of those aspects of my life will be negatively affected if I'm putting all the energy in one bucket. So it was stripping back that identity to say, okay, all of these buckets are important as part of my identity. So how do I make sure that I balance between the buckets? And what does that look like in terms of a day, a week, a month? There are times when some buckets will get a bit more than others. the key is to make sure it's not always the same bucket that's getting more and the others are always getting less. So how do I accept that, at the moment it's school half term, my son's birthday, there's a lot of family bucket at this moment, but that's fine. I'll accept that this is a heavy family bucket week, but then it will balance back out, sort of across other things, sort of in other weeks. But it was just being able to sort of almost span out a bit and look at all of the buckets rather than getting stuck in one bucket with all the energy and all the focus in one bucket. And so, yeah, there's been times during this year that it hasn't been, not even perfectly balanced, because it's never going to be perfectly balanced, but it hasn't been balanced in the way that I wanted it to be. But I do also feel I've put things in place to improve the balance so that, and to be aware of when it starts to get out of balance as well, so I can pick it up quicker rather than waiting a month, 2 months and going, why am I so drained because all of the energy's been in this one bucket? Actually, to identify that more quickly and to take corrective action more quickly when things don't go quite to plan. And I also accept that, I'm kind of on a high at the moment, that everything's going really well. And there will be a time when it comes down. And it's also being okay with that. Like, I know I'm not going to live at like the 100% woo kind of place all the time. I can come down and know that I will go back up. I had this big fear for a long time that if I came down, I'd be stuck at the bottom and I'd never get back up the other side. So learning that I ride waves, I go down, I come up, I go down, I come up, and that's all part of the human experience. That's fine. Not just fine, it's great, because when you come down you appreciate the highs, and when you can reflect on the highs, you can know that there's another one coming, and just being really comfortable with that as a journey through life.
Awesome. Now, I know we're kind of getting short on time, and we could probably talk for hours on the
Probably.
journey. Just keep going. But just give me the kind of the physical things that have now happened to you. So I know you're in size 8 jeans. There's probably a load of other.
Yeah.
So
So when I first came to you, we talked a lot about weight loss, and I have lost weight, but I haven't I haven't maybe lost as much weight as some other people might look at me and think I've lost, because I've gained an awful lot of muscle as well. My body composition has changed beyond measure. Like I say, I was in kind of size 18, almost sizeless clothes, that I didn't really have a shape when I came to you. I had this thing, I had size 10 jeans in my cupboard from previously, and I kept them there going, I'll get back into them one day. But I was in kind of size 18, 20, 22. It was like, whatever. It was a kind of bigger size than I ever wanted to be. And so initially it was like, I want to lose X amount of kilos and I want to wear size 10 jeans, size 10 jeans. So I'm not in size 10 jeans. I'm in size 8 jeans now, really. Slightly varies shop to shop, as most women will understand, but
yeah.
I'm comfortably in that. I have never, ever bought a small or medium top ever. And now I go between small and medium tops, which is just mind-blowing to me, because I was always I wasn't cut for clothes of that size, but I am that size now. And I'm not saying that I'm exactly where I want to be. I've got a goal this year of reducing my body fat percentage a bit more, which is all wrapped up in improving my performance in Hyrox, rather than I must be a certain number on the scales. It's not about that at all. It's about what's my optimum performance weight and my optimum performance body fat percentage, and moving everything towards that. So I track what I eat on a daily basis, except when it was my birthday, when I can, with abandon, go, I'm going out for a meal. I'm not going to even try and track it. And I'm cool with that as well. And that was one of the things I said to you right from the beginning. I want freedom to be able to do the things that I want to do. I had a slice of birthday cake with my son yesterday, and I didn't have guilt like I had in oh God, what am I going to do now? Because now I've eaten a slice of birthday cake, everything is ruined. Um, and so I can, but most of the time I'm tracking what I eat, not just in terms of calorie intake, but making sure I've got enough protein, the right level of carbs, right fats, all of that to be a part of making sure that I'm on the right journey to being who I am. But numbers wise, my weight has decreased, my body fat percentage has decreased hugely, my clothes size has decreased enormously. It always makes me laugh at like places I've bought clothes from previously and they go, we think you should be a size 16. No, no, not anymore.
Hell no. Hell
So
no.
yeah, I mean, but apart from that, those are just numbers. The the thing that makes me happier than anything is that when I've had some photos taken or something like that, and a few months later someone looks at them and go, can I just say you look half the age now of than you did in those photos back then? And I'm like, well, that was only 4 months ago. And they're like, yeah, I'm just saying you look really younger than now than you did then. And my energy levels, talking when we were talking about sleep, I wake up every morning and I'm like, boom, ready to go. Like, I do not need that sort of moment,
No.
like getting out of bed. I'm like, I'm rested, I'm energized. I I feel way younger than I've ever felt in my life, as far as I can remember. And so that to me is worth more than any number on any scale that says I just feel amazing and I feel that I'm doing everything towards that identity of being able to say yes to any experience that comes my way. And, I had it with a mixed doubles partner in Hyrox. Someone, when you do mixed doubles, the women have to do the men's weights because you can't do women do women, men's do men's. So that's quite a big jump in some of those weights. I was like, oh, I wonder if I can do it. And then I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And so now I'm kind of taking another step in what that journey looks like as well. And all of that is way more important to me now than a number on the scales. And this is from someone who, from the age of 12 at school, I was weighed on a regular basis, body shamed for whatever, like made to hop up a room in your bra and knickers, from horrible, vile
Mm.
things that hopefully happened, not happen, to young girls in the education system. And to be able to like shed that, like half of my year at school were anorexic, the eating disorders were just literally everything about how I spent my school life growing up. And so to be able to shed all of that and go, food is a nourishment that and a energy source that allows me to perform at my top level. It's not a stick to beat me with. It's not a judgment on other people from other people about what I'm eating, whether I'm eating too much, too little, too much this, too much that. It's a fuel that allows me to perform in the way that I want to perform. And that transformation with my relationship with food, I can't tell you the price of that the value of that. It's just valueless.
Can I add one bit? I'd say
Yeah.
wasn't a relationship with food, it's a relationship with yourself. That's
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah.
that's a change, I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
100%. My relationship with myself is entirely different to when we first met.
yeah, you rocked it. Like, yeah. I don't really I know that's not a very technical term, but you have absolutely rocked it. like the transformation in you from a personal level, physical, everything. Like,
Yeah. Well, I know that it was me who did the work and who's been on that journey, but I honestly don't think I'd have A, started it, or B, carried it on without you there. Because for anybody listening who was like me sitting on the fence, you are the least judgmental and most supportive person that I've ever met, I think, in terms of just being a like hold my hand metaphorically along that journey. And I don't think I'd have done it with another person. So, I'm forever grateful to you for kind of at least starting that ball rolling.
I would say thank you for being a rock star to work with. Like, you've challenged me, you've just everything. Just I can't put into words myself. So thank you.
Yeah.
Um, I know we have to finish this podcast, people, but Helen, you have a podcast as well, don't you?
I do.
And you
It's
have
called
books as well. You have books as well. So,
I have books. Yes, my podcast is called Becoming Unapologetically Me. It is on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, and all other good podcast places. So yeah, and I think there might be a feature with Greg in there as well. So yes, it's a lot of fun, and it is a huge part of that identity, like becoming unapologetically me, dropping judgment, being comfortable in your skin with who you are. And yeah, please have a listen if that's something that floats your boat.
I will make sure that people have the links to listen, and obviously they can find out more about you because you are a supremely talented being who plays it a little bit small, but you have many skills. So, ladies and gents who are listening, check out the podcast. I'll drop the link in the show notes.
Thank you.
Hyrox Helen, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast and talking about your journey. And
I just want to add with Hyrox Helen, my friend's son and his friends also call me Hyrox Helen. And that honestly, that gives me so much joy in my life that it's not just you who calls me that, it's an identity that is recognized wider, and not just recognized, but I'm directly called that from wider sources. So yeah, it's fab.
I think that is the ultimate mic drop that the people are calling you that without you having to tell them, kind of thing, because
Yeah, yeah,
showing up as who you said you wanted to be when we had that
yeah.
speech.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you so much. And if you're listening and you enjoyed this podcast, drop a 5-star review on Apple because you know you have to. And go check out Helen's podcast. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now.
Thank you.